Route 66 isn't just a road, it's a scar. A ribbon of asphalt cutting through desert so empty, it feels forgotten by time itself. Miles of silence, miles of dust, miles where your headlights are the only proof you exist. And if you drive it long enough, especially at night, you might see someone standing on the shoulder, thumb out, head lowered, waiting. They won't flag you down. They won't wave. They'll just stand there. And if you stop, you may pick up something that never made it home. Introduction: the legend begins. For nearly a century, drivers along isolated stretches of Route 66 in Arizona have reported the same impossible encounter. A lone hitchhiker appearing out of nowhere. A quiet passenger who gives vague directions. A person who vanishes without a sound. Some say the hitchhiker is a young woman. Others describe a man in outdated clothing. A few claim they picked up a child. But the details always change. The ending never does, because no matter who they see, no one ever remembers the hitchhiker leaving the car. They're just gone. Route 66, the perfect breeding ground for legends. In the early 1900s, Route 66 became America's promise. A road westward, a road to opportunity, a road that carried millions through deserts they were never meant to cross. Arizona's stretch was among the most dangerous. Long distances between towns, extreme heat during the day, freezing temperatures at night, vehicles that broke down more often than they didn't. Before cell phones, before GPS, before help was guaranteed, people walked this road. Some never finished. The first recorded story, the earliest documented account, dates back to the late 1930s. A traveling salesman driving eastbound near Kingman reported picking up a woman just after midnight. She wore a pale dress. Her hair was pinned back. Her skin looked strangely gray in the dashboard light. She asked for a ride to a nearby town. He agreed. She never spoke again. When he glanced into the passenger seat less than 10 minutes later, it was empty. No open door, no sound, just cold air where she'd been sitting. The details that never change. Over decades, hundreds of reports followed. Different years, different drivers, different vehicles, but always the same details. The hitchhiker appears suddenly. The temperature drops inside the car. Conversation feels strained or unnatural. The passenger avoids eye contact. The disappearance happens silently. And most chilling of all, many drivers later discovered the hitchhiker matched the description of someone who died on that stretch of road decades earlier. The desert doesn't forget. Arizona's desert preserves more than bones. It preserves stories. Bodies buried beneath sand are rarely disturbed. Memories linger longer in isolation, and tragedy echoes louder where silence dominates. Car accidents along Route 66 were frequent, fatal, often undocumented. Some victims were never identified, some were never recovered, and some may still be waiting for a ride. A pattern emerges. By the 1950s, the stories became too consistent to ignore. State troopers began hearing the same reports, drivers shaken, refusing to continue their trip, insisting someone had been in their car. But there was never evidence. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no missing persons reports that matched timelines. Only fear, and one recurring phrase. She asked me to stop, but I never saw her leave. The Phantom Woman of Route 66. One version of the legend became dominant. A young woman killed in a hit-and-run accident sometime in the 1920s. Left bleeding on the roadside. Never helped. Now appearing to drivers as she once stood. Alone and waiting. Some say she wears a white dress. Others claim it's blue. But nearly everyone agrees on one thing. Her eyes don't reflect light. When legends turn, personal locals along Route 66 stopped picking up hitchhikers entirely. Not because of crime, because of stories. Gas station clerks warned tourists. Truckers refused rides. Old-timers whispered the same advice. If you see someone walking at night out there, don't stop. Not because they're dangerous, but because they're already dead. The legend of Arizona's Phantom Hitchhiker didn't fade. It evolved. In the decades that followed, encounters became more frequent, more detailed, and far more disturbing. Because eventually, the hitchhiker stopped disappearing quietly. Drivers began reporting scratches on the dashboard, handprints on fogged windows, whispered directions from an empty seat, and in one case, a driver never made it home. By the mid-20th century, Arizona's stretch of Route 66 had earned a reputation, not just for breakdowns, not just for heat and isolation, but for something else, something unseen. Stories of the Phantom Hitchhiker had spread from truck stops to diners, from police radios to family dinner tables. Most were dismissed as exhaustion, heat stroke, loneliness on the road, until the encounters started changing. When the Phantom stopped vanishing in earlier decades, the hitchhiker would disappear quietly, no noise, no trace. But beginning in the late 1960s, drivers began reporting something different, something aggressive. They described the hitchhiker staying longer, speaking more, leaving marks behind, and sometimes refusing to leave at all. The 1969 trucker incident. In the summer of 1969, a long-haul truck driver named Raymond Ellis was driving westbound near Seligman. It was past midnight, the road was empty, the desert stretched endlessly on both sides. That's when he saw her, a woman standing just beyond the shoulder line. White dress, bare feet, head down. Ellis slowed. He later said he didn't even decide to stop. His foot just came off the gas. She climbed into the passenger seat without a word. No door slam, no sound. Just there. The ride. Ellis tried to make conversation. "Where are you headed? Do you need water?" She answered slowly, softly. Her voice sounded distant, like it was coming from the back of his own head. She told him to keep driving. Not toward a town, not toward lights, just driving. The temperature in the cab dropped so suddenly, Ellis could see his breath. His radio crackled into static, and that's when he noticed her reflection. The reflection that shouldn't exist. Ellis later told police that when he looked at the passenger side mirror, he saw her face reflected in the glass. But when he turned his head to look at her directly, her seat was empty. The mirror still showed her sitting there, looking at him, smiling. Ellis swerved, nearly losing control of the truck. When he stopped, the mirror reflection vanished. But something remained. Scratches carved into the vinyl of the passenger seat. Deep, like fingernails. State trooper reports. Ellis wasn't the only one. Throughout the 1970s, Arizona state troopers received dozens of similar calls. Drivers pulled over, shaken, insisting someone had been in their car. Some claimed passengers vanished mid-sentence. Others said they felt hands on their shoulders from empty seats. Troopers found no evidence, except in rare cases, cold handprints on steering wheels, fogged windows with writing that faded too quickly to read, and once a woman screaming from the desert with no visible source, the woman who ran into the night. In 1977, a young couple traveling eastbound reported seeing a woman suddenly run across Route 66 directly in front of their car. They swerved, missed her by inches. She stood in the road, unmoving. The husband rolled down the window and shouted. She pointed, not at them, behind them. They turned. Nothing was there. When they faced forward again, she was gone. No footsteps, No sound, just silence and open road. Police begin to notice a pattern. By the early 1980s, certain patterns became impossible to ignore. Encounters happen. Late at night, on isolated stretches, near known accident sites, often close to anniversaries of fatal crashes, troopers began quietly marking locations. 1 mile marker appeared again and again, near a curve infamous for deadly collisions in the 1920s and 30s. Locals avoided it after dark. The case that changed everything in 1984, a man named Thomas Reed left Flagstaff heading west. He never arrived. His abandoned car was found 2 days later, parked neatly on the shoulder. Engine cold, doors locked, keys missing. Inside the car, officers found something disturbing. Mud on the passenger side floorboard, but no footprints leading away. And the radio stuck on a single frequency, broadcasting static and faint whispering. Reed was never found. The whispers. Multiple drivers reported hearing whispers after picking up the hitchhiker. Not voices through speakers, not radio interference, whispers from inside the car, right behind their ears. They described hearing, "Keep driving. You promised. Don't stop." One woman pulled over anyway. She said the whisper turned into screaming the moment she touched the brakes. The child on the road. Not all sightings involved a woman. In the 1990s, multiple drivers reported seeing a young boy standing alone on Route 66, too small to be walking at night, wearing outdated clothes, barefoot. Drivers who stopped said he never got closer. He just stood there, watching. When headlights passed over him again, he was gone. Records later showed a child had died in a collision near that same stretch decades earlier. Why some people see different forms. Paranormal investigators have long debated this. One theory suggests the hitchhiker appears as whatever will make a driver stop. A woman, a child, a stranded traveler. The goal isn't conversation, it's invitation. The feeling that comes first. Nearly every witness described the same sensation before the encounter. A sudden heaviness, a feeling of being watched, a pressure behind the eyes. Some said they felt compelled to slow down, as if the road itself was guiding them. Native American perspectives. Local tribal elders offered a different explanation. They spoke of lost ones, spirits bound to places of violent death. Not evil, but restless. They believe roads cut through land without respect, and sometimes the land answers back. When the phantom enters the car, not every encounter ends with disappearance. Some drivers claimed the hitchhiker stayed with them long after, cold spots lingering for days, nightmares of desert roads, the smell of dust and old fabric inside their vehicles. One man reported hearing footsteps in his back seat weeks later. A rule emerges among truckers and locals, an unspoken rule formed: if you see someone on Route 66 at night, do not stop, do not acknowledge them, and never let them into your vehicle, because if you do, you may not be the one driving anymore. Part 2. Ending. The road closes in. As the years passed, sightings didn't fade. They intensified. And with modern technology, dashcams, GPS, smartphones, the Phantom Hitchhiker should have been exposed. Instead, the evidence became stranger. Videos corrupted, audio erased, witnesses forgetting details moments after encounters. And in one modern case, the hitchhiker spoke directly to the camera. By the early 2000s, Route 66 had changed. GPS replaced paper maps. Cell phones replaced payphones. Dash cameras recorded everything. If the Phantom Hitchhiker was real, this should have ended it. Instead, the encounters adapted. The dashcam incident. In 2008, a rideshare driver traveling alone at night captured something he couldn't explain. The footage shows a woman standing on the shoulder near an abandoned gas station. She doesn't move, she doesn't wave, she's just there. The driver slows. The temperature reading inside the car drops suddenly. Then the footage glitches. When the video resumes, the passenger seat is empty, but the driver is speaking, asking questions, responding to someone who isn't visible. At one point he says, "I can't keep going this way." The video cuts out completely after that. The driver later claimed he remembered nothing between stopping and waking up miles away. The voice that should not exist. Audio engineers analyzing the footage discovered something disturbing. During the silent sections, a second voice appears, faint, layered beneath the driver's, whispering directions, coordinates. The voice doesn't match any known speaker, and when isolated, it says the same phrase repeatedly, "Take me home." Why the phantom still walks. Paranormal researchers believe the hitchhiker isn't tied to one identity. It's tied to the road itself. Every death, every broken down vehicle, every person who walked into the desert and never came back. Route 66 didn't just carry people, it absorbed them. The last ride theory. One theory suggests the hitchhiker is reenacting its final moments, appearing to drivers who resemble those who once passed without stopping, offering them the chance to do what no one did before, help. But the road doesn't forgive mistakes. When drivers refuse to stop, some modern witnesses report something worse than picking the hitchhiker up. They report being followed, seeing the figure in mirrors miles later, hearing knocking from inside locked trunks, and finding handprints on fogged windows from the inside. The disappearance of cell signals. Multiple reports confirm phones lose signal during encounters. GPS reroutes drivers in circles, maps glitch, technology fails, as if the road itself is isolating them, keeping them in the moment. The night, a trooper quit. In 2016, an Arizona state trooper reportedly resigned after a single night patrol. His dashcam showed him pulling over for a pedestrian report. The footage never showed the pedestrian, but the audio recorded the trooper speaking calmly, then crying, then apologizing. When backup arrived, he was sitting in his cruiser, doors locked, refusing to leave. He quit 2 weeks later, never gave a statement. What the phantom wants. Every theory comes back to one question. Why? Some say the hitchhiker wants to be remembered. Others believe it wants company. A few think it's trying to finish a journey that never ended. But one detail connects nearly every encounter. The hitchhiker never asks for help. It assumes it. The road at night. If you drive Route 66 at night, you'll notice something. The desert feels closer. The darkness presses in. Your headlights don't seem to go far enough. And sometimes, you'll feel the urge to slow down, to look at the shoulder, to check your mirrors. A warning from those who know locals still warn travelers. Drive during the day. Don't stop for anyone at night. And if someone appears suddenly on the road, do not engage, because if you acknowledge them, they may acknowledge you back. Final thought, the road is still open. Route 66 is still driven, still photographed, still romanticized. But beneath the nostalgia lies something older, something unfinished. And every night, when traffic thins and silence takes over, someone is still waiting, thumb out, head lowered, ready for one last ride. Ending, cinematic close. If you ever find yourself alone on Route 66 after dark, and you see someone standing where no one should be, keep driving, because some passengers never leave the car, and some roads never let you go.